Era+Shuangwen+Sweet Pet+1v1+Huantuo, Nanqingqing dressed up as the sickly sister of the female protagonist who died early in a Dog Blood era novel. The original protagonist was tricked by the female protagonist and lost his reputation. He married the villain Sha Xing in the book, feeling depressed and unhappy. In the end, he jumped into the river to end his life. South Qingqing, who had traveled through time, fell into an awkward situation when she faced the man she had been trying so hard to seduce. Despite having three-dimensional facial features, a handsome appearance, and a voice that makes one's legs soft, how could he be the crazy critic in the book who behaves recklessly, kills countless people, has a violent personality, takes lives while chatting and laughing, and ultimately leads to the early death of the original owner? Nanqingqing covered her young heart and prepared to escape. Unexpectedly, the crazy criticism big shot pinched her slender waist and bit her ear tip. How dare you run? Keywords of the novel. Wearing the sick original version of Crazy Critics without pop-ups, wearing the sick original version of Crazy Critics complete collection download, wearing the sick original version of Crazy Critics latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Your Future Wife. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Your Future Wife. In the autumn of 1975, Taohua Village. At sunset, in the lush green reeds, the water ripples. Nanqingqing's head was pressed underwater and then pulled out. Nanqingqing, are you sober now? Her wet hair stuck to the corner of her mouth, she gasped for breath, and the man's fierce questioning was in her ear. Her mind was filled with a long memory that did not belong to her. She's so unfair. When I was reading the novel, I wrote that she designed to care about her sister, replace her qualification to return to the city, and then rose up all the way. Such a woman owner is very vicious. How could it be an inspirational legend? Isn't this a lack of proper values? Unexpectedly, she just slept and dressed up as the sister of the female protagonist in this book, the Nanqingqing with the same name as her, the cannon fodder supporting actress who lost her virginity, was forced to marry the villain Sha Xing, and ultimately died of depression. At this moment, due to the design of the female lead, she is lost in consciousness and is about to forcefully bow down to the villainous malevolent star. Nanqingqing, do you know what you're doing? The man's voice rang out again, and the ferocious tone couldn't suppress the seductive temptation of the subwoofer. Nanqingqing's extremely sensitive body trembled even more. Damn it. Forget it, let's sleep first before we talk. And you have to be fast, otherwise you'll be caught cheating again. Nanqingqing raised his hand and hooked it around the man's neck, saying, of course I know, you're not willing. Shameless. The man frowned and reached out to pinch her waist to prevent her from getting closer. But he was still a bit slow in the end. This damn woman has already patted her feet and kissed his ear. Hurry up, someone drugged me. If they come over later, will you marry me? The woman's angry voice, like a orchid, fell to her ear. Jiang Bei-ting only felt a sudden surge of electric current hitting his heart. This woman, how different from her past life. In their past lives, if she hadn't misunderstood him for making her stronger, crying and struggling, they wouldn't have been seen at all. Besides, he never touched her either, he just got caught in her disheveled clothes. But now, she looks like she only treats him as an antidote. The Jiangbei court hesitated. Outside the reeds, there were already panicked shouts and footsteps. Nanqingqing poked the man and said, "What should I do?" The man gritted his teeth and said, "If it weren't for you holding me back and not letting me go, would this situation have happened?" Nanqingqing felt a bit embarrassed. She couldn't deny what the original owner had done, and could only speak softly, "Brother, think of a way." Cold and coquettish, coupled with Nanqingqing's extremely soft voice, the man felt like he was electrified. Grinding his teeth, he lifted his hands vigorously and directly picked up Nanqingqing and jumped into the river. Nanqingqing didn't even exclaim, but was submerged by the river water. Swearing incessantly in my heart, I was drowned in my previous life, and just as I was wearing a book, I would drown again. If it weren't for the man tightly gripping her waist, she would probably have cursed him out of the water. What's even more outrageous is not that the man led her to jump into the river, but that he stood up on the water and breathed, holding her head tightly with one hand, preventing her from coming out of the water. Fortunately, she is very good at holding her breath and is likely to drown soon. Just as she was about to rush out of the water regardless of everything, she heard someone talking. "De Bay, are you fishing here again?" With this inquiry, several more voices rang out. "De Bay, have you seen any southern-educated youth?" "De Bay, have you seen it?" Nanqingqing instinctively guessed that the Nanqingqing they asked was definitely her, not her cousin. As expected, a voice from the original owner's body responded and said, "My sister is missing. We are looking for her. Have you seen her?" A clear and sweet female voice. Even if you hear her voice, you know she looks good. "No." Jiang Biting impatiently shook his face with water, his voice filled with anger. Especially when he felt Nanqingqing hugging his thigh in the water and continuing to indulge, he felt that some of his little secrets would be exposed and he could only send someone away as soon as possible. The few people standing by the reed marshes by the river clearly didn't want to offend the Jiangbei court. When they heard him say no, they turned around one after another. Only Nan Jiaojiao, the cousin of Nanqingqing, asked again, "Did you really not see it? She also likes to take a shower in this area." The few people who had just turned around and were about to leave stretched their necks to look back, and some even kept searching for the river water. Gu Biting's cold gaze fell on Nan Jiaojiao and he said, "Is Nanqingqing really your sister?" As if being stared at by a fierce beast, Nan Jiaojiao's face turned pale in an instant, and she stumbled and ran along with the newcomer. And if she turned around, she would find that the fierce beast-like man was suddenly dragged into the water by an unknown force. The golden light passes through the water surface and falls into it, revealing two figures entwined in the water. A charming creature, like a water demon, climbed up the man's waist along his thigh, then grabbed the man's arm and made himself look at him level. In the man's surprised gaze, Nanqingqing didn't hesitate to kick him in the stomach. "Dog man." Nanqing held a ball of fire in her heart, wishing to beat up the man in front of her. Jiangbei court is not a vegetarian either. There is already a lot of resistance in the water, so it's easy to grab Nanqing's ankle and lift someone out of the water. With a cold warning, you've figured it out. If you keep going like this, what consequences will you have? He pointed to something, and it was only then that Nanqingqing realized what had just happened. The dryness and heat in his body had been alleviated a lot due to entering the water, but in the end, it still did not disappear. After wiping off the water droplets on his face, Nanqingqing chuckled and said, "What are the consequences?" Jiangbei Ting looked at her coldly, with everything in his eyes. In her previous life, this woman was so afraid of him that she was scared to death. How could this life have changed? "Who the hell are you?" Nanqing exclaimed, "Your future daughter. Law." He tried to climb up the shore with both hands and feet, but was held down by the Jiangbei court, saying, "Someone." Not giving Nanqingqing a chance to speak, he was once again pressed into the water by the Jiangbei court with his head pressed down. Nanqingqing really wants to scold his mother, is this human affairs? But when she saw that a stone had fallen from the location of the Jiangbei court just now, her only anger remained in her heart. If she had just been in that position, she would definitely have had a broken head and blood flow by now. Even if she understands what's going on, it doesn't mean that Nanqingqing will understand what Jiangbei court did to her. She still remembers the suffocating feeling of being pushed into the water by Gu Biting just now. Jiang Biting hooked her waist and flipped her body flat, pushing her head out of the water, only exposing her mouth and nose. I can breathe again, but Nanqingqing doesn't dare to come out of the water casually again. But Jiangbei Ting stood up and whispered, "The person hasn't left yet." Then he exerted force and used his foot to step her into the water again. Nanqingqing cursed inwardly, truly deserving of being a villain, and indeed could not be judged according to common sense. Being unable to speak doesn't mean she can't do anything. The Jiangbei court had just stepped out of the water to drive people away, but they trembled and fell into the water. I'm back. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Embracing and Embracing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Embracing and Embracing. Nan Jiaojiao, who had originally left, pulled a man and ran to Jiangbei court. Turns out I'm really not here, Big Beige. If you see my sister, you must tell us, my brother.in.law is so worried. Her gaze kept scanning towards the chest muscles of Jiangbeiting, which was so powerful that she couldn't help but blush. The man who came with her stood in front of Nan Jiaojiao with gloomy eyes, blocking her gaze. Jiangbei court, in broad daylight, can you just take a shower in the water and order your face? The accusation came unexpectedly, and Jiangbeiting squinted at Qingqing. Thinking that this bastard had killed him in his previous life, he wished he could twist his neck. Nan Jiaojiao tugged at the man's arm and said, "Brother-in-law, don't talk like that." Qingqing felt the touch on his arms, his face improved a lot, but he still didn't look very good, and his eyes were full of warnings. The Jiangbei court is too lazy to bother with the two people, but if they don't leave in front of them, the one in the water won't come out. Get lost. In their previous life, these two people had been hooked up with each other, and even after many years, seeing him again still couldn't give him a good face. Jiangbei court ignored the expressions of Qingqing and Nan Jiaojiao, and plunged into the water with a fierce force. Nan Jiaojiao stomped her feet and shamefully pulled Qingqing away. This kind of blind streamer really has poor quality. Nan Jiaojiao complained in a low voice, and Qingqing agreed. It's not that, blind streamers are blind streamers. The two of them walked away without seeing Nanqingqing, who was pressed in the water with his feet by the Jiangbei court. They grabbed his feet and dragged him into the water, and his lungs, which were about to explode, urgently needed air. Despite the struggle of Jiangbei court, she pounced and brazenly snatched air from Jiangbei court's mouth. Jiangbeiting had never seen such a fierce woman in his 2 lifetimes, and he did not react for a moment. By the time he reacted, his fate had already been controlled by Nanqingqing. A faint heat emanated from his ears, and he couldn't help but feel grateful that he could hide his damn blush in the water. The two of them rushed out of the water again, and Nanqingqing gasped for breath. Even so, he didn't let go. Jiangbeiting held Nanqing's wrist and said, "Let go." In exchange for Nanqing's playful smile, he said, "What if I don't?" For a moment, the two of them froze, their gaze drawn, but only entangled with electric sparks, without any trace of entanglement. "I'm not a casual person," Jiangbeiting warned softly. Nanqingqing leaned against his arms and said, "Isn't it human to get up casually?" Jiangbei court. His sword eyebrows furrowed together, his eyes sharp, but the woman in front of his chest stepped on the back of his feet, floating on the water with his strength. But those hands were walking down his waist, with endless charm flowing through his eyebrows and eyes. No need to be responsible, how about a fish water celebration? His fingers wrapped around his, and his voice was sweet and seductive. The buoyancy in the water lifted the two, creating an illusion. All of this may really be just an unrealistic dream. Jiangbeiting tightly grasped Nanqing's wrist and said, "Are you not afraid?" A light smile emerged from Nanqingqing's throat, and she placed Jiangbeiting's finger on herself. "This medicine has completely taken effect, do you think I still have the right to be afraid?" There is a scorching sensation under the palm of the hand, and the temperature is extremely high, even if it is soaked in river water, it cannot be taken away. He couldn't help but admire that Nanqingqing could still maintain his rationality and talk nonsense with him here. Nanqing could no longer control her instinctive reaction and hooked onto Jiangbeiting's neck, preparing to go to a wild feast of fish and water. However, before her lips touched Jiangbeiting's, her eyes turned black and she fainted. When Nanqingqing opened his eyes again, what caught his eye were the dark beams of the house. He turned his head and faced a wrinkled face, almost screaming out loud. Fortunately, he didn't get scared when he heard the other person speak. Wake up. The voice of the elderly is filled with the power to soothe the heart. The retreating body finally saw the person in front of them clearly. Fortunately, it's not a ghost. The old man handed her a military green teapot, from which a smell of brown sugar ginger water emerged. Soaked in water, it drives away the cold. The old man stuffed the teapot into her hand and continued to sit under the oil lamp, rubbing the hemp rope. Her dry hands were covered in calluses and cracks, and the rough castor beans slowly twisted into thin hemp ropes in her palm, landing at her feet and piling up into small hills. Nanqingqing recognized the old man and had spoken to him several times in the original owner's memory. "Grandma, was it the Jiangbei court who brought me here?" Nanqingqing held his breath and poured down the ginger sugar water, feeling his body start to sweat slightly. He couldn't help but feel that his body is good. After soaking in water, a bowl of ginger sugar water can make him sweat. The old man grinned and nodded, revealing his toothless gums. Nanqing lowered her head to look at the indigo blue solid-colored coat on her body, then at the indigo blue pants. Before she could ask, the old man spoke up and explained, "Your clothes have been washed and hung in the yard." "These are my clothes, all washed clean." Nanqingqing waved her hands repeatedly, and she could smell the smell of soap on her clothes, indicating that the elderly person loves cleanliness. Naturally, she did not show any affectation to blindly pursue people from this era. "Grandma, what about Jiangbei court?" She still remembers that she was knocked unconscious by Jiangbei court. Although she is a bit unkind and wants to use someone else's antidote, even if she doesn't agree, she won't make her dizzy. Besides, she doesn't need him to take responsibility. Before the old man could answer her, Jiangbei court pushed the door in and saw that Nanqingqing was already clear-headed, so he coldly drove her away. The old man patted the back of Jiangbei court and said, "De Bei, speak well. Jiangbei court can be cold to anyone, but not to this elderly person. Who makes her very special to Jiangbei court. Although she is not her own grandmother, she is the one who adopted Jiangbei court. Grandma, it's okay. It's because I'm not good that he despises me." Nanqingqing wiped her eyes, her softness like a cattail, her eyes turning red at the end, which was unbearable. The elderly are even more distressed and constantly comforted. But in the eyes of the Jiangbei court, it is a delicate fabrication, extremely hypocritical. At a glance, one could see through her cautious thoughts, but unfortunately she had no hesitation. The pride in her eyes was obvious, that is, the old man's eyes were not good enough to see. Jiang Biting gritted his teeth and warned, "Don't you want your reputation anymore? There are people looking for you outside." Nanqingqing said with a tearful tone, "I'm already your person. Are you still driving me away?" The old man was stunned and immediately looked at the Jiangbei court. "You stinky kid, how dare you ruin such a good girl?" Jiangbei court. He stared at Nanqingqing with eyes that could eat people. If the original owner might be afraid, but Nanqingqing is not the original owner, and she is very interested in Jiangbei court. Who makes his abdominal muscles unforgettable. "Grandma, don't listen to her nonsense. I didn't do anything to her." As soon as Jiang Biting finished speaking, a tear rolled down the corner of Nanqingqing's eye. "I hugged you and kissed you too. If you said you didn't do anything, then you didn't do it." End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Observation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Observation. Jiang Beiting looked at her in shock. Aren't these things her initiative? The elderly person didn't know, they just thought it was their grandson who bullied them. He tugged at Jiang Biting's ear and said, "Tomorrow I'll go to the commune to buy some sugar and oil fruits and visit the captain's house. You're not too young, you should start a family." Jiang Biting pointed at Nanqingqing, looked at his grandmother, and finally felt the pain in his ear. He could only hold his breath and soothe his grandmother. "I have to ask this matter clearly." What he thought of was that in his previous life, he was also promised to marry Nanqingqing by pressing his head. In the end, Nanqingqing was unhappy and jumped into the river to commit suicide. However, Qingqing and Nanjiaojiao were afraid that he would reveal what happened back then, so they used means to trap and kill him. Returning from his rebirth, he originally did not want to get involved with Nanqingqing anymore, at least to prevent her reputation from being ruined, so he did not have to marry him, and ultimately died tragically. But who would have thought that he didn't want to continue, but Nanqingqing stopped. She took the initiative to entangle herself. Nanqingqing was holding a teapot, not even wiping away the tear from the corner of his eye. Charming with cunning, it completely contrasts with her original temperament. The old man's eyes were a bit unpleasant. When he heard that the Jiangbei court did not reject him, he went to the next room to search for something. Jiang Baiting looked at Nanqingqing and said, "Don't forget that you still have a fiancé, eh?" Nanqing turned the teapot in his palm and his gaze fell on it. He's not my fiancé, eh? After she finished speaking, the Jiangbei court frowned. He couldn't help but think of what had happened in his previous life, and it seemed that Nanqingqing was not unaware of it at this moment. "Do you dare to marry me?" Nanqingqing looked up at the Jiangbei court. Jiangbei Ting remained silent, and both of them could see the temptation in each other's eyes. After a while, the Jiangbei court asked, "I'm just a blind person, will you marry me too?" Nanqing licked her lips and chuckled softly, "Why don't you dare? If you dare to marry me, you dare to marry me." She handed the teapot to Jiangbei Ting and wiped his fingertips with her fingers. Rough yet full of power. It's the feeling she likes. Nanqingqing has never been the one who wronged herself. Before wearing a book, she was extremely independent, and after wearing a book, she would not be the one who wronged herself. A pair of autumn water eyes filled the entire Jiangbei court. The charm flowed unconsciously, and the Jiangbei court had never seen such a Nanqingqing before. For a moment, he was stunned and didn't even dodge when Nanqingqing's fingers touched him. "Take care of your affairs before we speak." Reborn once again, although not surrounded by anyone again, Nanqingqing was also right. He did not push away Nanqingqing who was holding him, and even helped to cover it up. In her previous life, the Jiangbei court did not touch her at all until Nanqingqing jumped into the river and committed suicide, but she did not want to force anyone. If she insists on remarrying in this life, he doesn't mind remarrying, but this time he won't stop. Nanqingqing leaned forward and hugged Jiang Baiting standing by the bed, pressing his head against his abdomen. "I know you're the best, so let's make a deal. I'll clean up that scumbag and bitch, and you're going to marry me." Jiangbei court. When did he agree? With his hands open, he dared not touch the person in his arms, and Jiangbei Ting felt extremely depressed. He never imagined that one day, Nanqingqing would take the initiative to embrace him. His throat itched and his mouth couldn't open. In the end, he didn't say anything, just grabbed Nanqingqing's shoulder and pushed him away. "Self-wait." In the end, he only uttered these two cold words. I thought Nanqingqing would be sad and cry, but she smiled. That smile is hard to describe, not too ugly, on the contrary, very beautiful. "I'm teasing you." Before his grandmother came in, Nanqing said something that made Jiangbei Ting's face turn black. Grandma didn't notice anything was wrong when she entered the house. She just sat down with Jiang Baiting and opened the small bundle under the kerosene lamp. Inside was a small yellow croaker. "This is where you were with me back then. Marrying a wife costs money, don't be reluctant. We have money." Grandma's face was full of wrinkles and she smiled, pushing the contents of her bundle towards the Jiangbei court. Jiangbei court repackaged and stuffed it into Grandma's hand. "This is Grandma's, I'm not short of money." Grandma smiled and glanced at Nanqingqing, "That's Grandma's intention. If I can watch you marry a wife, Grandma will be happy." Jiangbei court still didn't want it, but in the end, Grandma saw that Jiangbei court was determined not to, so she simply stuffed the small bundle into the hands of Nanqingqing. Nanqingqing did not refuse, she accepted it very decisively, and Jiangbei Court's face turned even darker. "Grandma, don't worry, I'll take the dowry and go with Bei to get my marriage certificate another day." Nanqingqing hid the small bundle behind her, with a seemingly greedy gesture, but her grandmother was very happy. She said 3 good things in a row, pinching her sleeve and wiping the corner of her eye. "If I can watch Bei get married, even if I die now, I can still rest in peace." Nanqing quickly pulled his grandmother and let out 3 sounds of ba 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 ba. "When I'm overjoyed, my grandmother won't say such discouraging words. I'm still waiting for my grandmother to help me and Bei take care of our great-grandchildren." Grandma laughed so hard that her gums popped out. Holding Nanqingqing's hand, she was so excited that she couldn't even speak. As for Jiang Biding, he was looking at a woman completely different from what he remembered on one side. The night outside was heavy, and the Jiangbei court reminded him, "If you don't go back, do you still want a good reputation?" Nanqingqing didn't care about these things, but when she thought of the faces of the male and female leads, she was still willing to go back and add trouble to them. According to the plot in the book, there may be a good show tonight, how could she miss it? Grandma also urged Nanqingqing to go back first, and the process of proposing marriage still needs to go through. "I can't come in a hurry." Nanqingqing changed into dried clothes and walked beside Jiang Biding. The orange light emitted by Jiang Biding's tiger card flashlight attracted some small flying insects to come and chase around the beam of light. On the autumn night, one can already feel the cold. The Jiangbei court remained silent, and the Nanqingqing naturally did not speak. There were only occasional barks of dogs, and the rest were the footsteps of the 2. "Keep walking until you reach the entrance of the educated youth courtyard where Nanqingqing lives." Jiang Biding stuffed a flashlight into Nanqingqing's hand and turned around to leave. As soon as his footsteps lifted, Nanqingqing turned off his flashlight and ran towards the back of the courtyard, holding his hand. Jiangbei Court whispered to her not to act recklessly, but Nanqingqing remained silent and only pulled him forward. "Fortunately, the road surface under my feet is smooth, otherwise it would be easy to fall due to the dark lights." Just as Jiangbei Ting was about to shake off Nanqing's hand, Nanqing suddenly crawled into his arms and whispered in his ear, "Take me over, I know you can do it without any movement." Jiangbei Ting gritted his teeth, but heard the commotion and ultimately did not throw out the woman in his arms. Carrying someone across a small ditch, they arrived at a small forest. 15 meters ahead on the left side, someone is fighting with a fairy. Nanqingqing's voice was suppressed to the extreme, like a lover whispering, strands of heat seeping into her ear, numbing her whole body. Jiang Biding turned around and was about to leave, but Nanqingqing hugged his neck and said, "Observe it, you'll need it in the future." End of this chapter. Chapter 4. True Love. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. True Love. Jiangbei Court almost choked Nanqing to death. He didn't originally know what a fairy fight was, but now he understood. Especially when he was tightly held by Nanqingqing, he was not allowed to escape. Even if he tried to turn off his hearing, unfortunately those 2 people had no scruples and really forced him to listen to all the messy content in one ear. The Jiangbei court felt embarrassed to hear it, but the southern Qingqing who hugged him looked excited. Nanqingqing poked him in the chest. "Don't be so nervous, they are passionate and fighting fiercely. How could they care about us?" The more she said, the darker Jiang Biding's face turned, and she could only silence. "Let the Jiangbei court take her out." Jiangbei court left her at the entrance of the educated youth courtyard. Nanqingqing smiled and bent over. Only then did I realize how interesting the Jiangbei court is. However, she was not angry. When she pushed open the door of the educated youth courtyard, the smile on her face completely disappeared. She had a good memory and naturally recognized who the 2 people in the small forest were. Entering the educated youth courtyard, many people heard the commotion and quickly gathered around, asking where she had gone and why she came back so late. Nanqingqing answered their questions one by one, with the only reason being to make some money so that his sister could go to the county town to have a delicious meal. He went to the back mountain to look for herbs and accidentally fell into the mountain nest. When he woke up, it was already dark. No one doubts this statement. Nanqingqing used to often go into the mountains. She knows some herbs and has indeed sold them to people on the purchasing station. Qingqing, you still need to tell your sister when you go out in the future. She is worried about you today and has been asking us for help in finding you. There is someone who has a good relationship with Nan Jiaojiao, please give some advice to Nanqingqing. Nanqingqing smiled and said, I will. She must talk to this sister carefully before she can succeed. By the way, when I just came back, I heard someone shouting in the small forest ahead. I dare not go over, let's go and have a look together. Her younger sister is also a ruthless person. In order to completely trap Qingqing, she did a lot of things. Someone exclaimed, a few days ago, I heard about Miss Huohua, a blind wanderer. Isn't it the blind wanderer who came to our village? The male-educated youth immediately became angry, with some holding forks and others holding wooden sticks. They rushed into the small forest with flashlights. Without the need for Nanqingqing to lead the way, they also heard the commotion and rushed to the front. The flashlight swept over, and the timid girl began to moan and scream. Even some people who could see clearly turned around to show sympathy towards Nanqingqing. Nanqingqing walked out from behind the crowd and naturally saw the situation inside, especially when she saw Nan Jiaojiao, who was disheveled, being held in Qingqing's arms. The emotions on their faces had not yet subsided, and although the air was cold, some strange smells had not completely dissipated. Pooh! Shameless! A female-educated youth couldn't help but curse. The male-educated youth also looked at the two with a complex gaze, some envious, some regretful, and some contemptuous. Various gazes made Nan Jiaojiao's face turn red, and she screamed and nestled in Qingqing's arms. At this moment, Nanqingqing walked up to her and tears streamed down her eyes. You! She covered her mouth, unable to speak, and immediately collapsed on the shoulder of the female-educated youth beside her, saying, Why? Her devastated and unacceptably realistic appearance resonated with too many female-educated youth, some shouting to tie up dogs and men, and to educate them to wander the streets. Nanqingqing couldn't help but feel secretly pleased when she saw that Nan Jiaojiao and Qingqing were still there and couldn't accept the current appearance of being arrested. In the book, the original owner was just hugging the Jiangbei court, and nothing happened. They were all humiliated in various ways. Why can't they be treated equally when it's their turn? Qingqing, listen to my explanation, this is an accident. Qingqing finally seized the opportunity to talk to Nanqingqing, but Nanqingqing just covered her mouth and shed tears. As for Nan Jiaojiao, she is not much better either. She has already recovered her body and knows that being caught is difficult to whitewash, so she can only seek help from Nanqingqing. Sister, tell them, it's actually me who has an engagement with brother Qingqing. Nan Jiaojiao knew that as long as they fulfilled their engagement, their behavior could at most be considered uncontrollable. Nanqingqing's eyes turned red and his voice choked up. Whatever you say is what you say. Her submissive appearance has made female-educated youth who advocate for women to stand firm and resolute hate her for not being strong enough. Nanqingqing, are you crazy? With just such a couple of dogs, who wouldn't know that Qingqing is your fiancé, eh? The female-educated youth who supported Nanqingqing grabbed her shoulder in an attempt to awaken her. Nanqingqing leaned on the shoulder of the female-educated youth and said, What can I do? They are all sleeping together. Should I endure the injustice and marry a man who doesn't like me? The same goes for female-educated youth. But being disgusted, where can we let them go? Then you can't be bullied like this. If your future brother.in.law and sister.in.law get together, and you don't give them a good education, wouldn't it be a bad atmosphere? The village woman director was called in and spoke with serious questioning. Many people shouted, severe punishment. Qingqing looked at Nanqingqing for help, but Nanqingqing wouldn't accept his request. Jiao shouted, "I was calculated. I was drugged. Brother Qingqing was trying to save me." Qingqing also nodded along. Everyone on the scene looked at them with disdain and said, "An affair is an affair. Don't find any reason, broken shoes." Jiao struggled and shouted at Nanqingqing, "Please explain it quickly." Nanqingqing looked up, his eyes were already red and swollen. "Yes, the ones who have an engagement are Jiao and Qingqing. I have no relationship with Qingqing, is that okay?" Jiao feels difficulty breathing. This is not an explanation, it is clearly adding fuel to the fire. She still wanted to shout, but someone blocked her mouth with smelly socks. The night was heavy, and naturally no one noticed the corner of Nanqingqing's mouth curled up on the shoulder of the female educated youth. This is where it goes. If you dare to calculate on her, then you must welcome the result of the calculation. The game has just started. Because Nanqingqing admitted that she had no engagement with Qingqing, this incident only created a bad social atmosphere. After being criticized and educated, Jiao and Qingqing were also released. In order to maintain their reputation, the two of them went straight to the village branch secretary to apply for marriage without stopping. The village secretary asked Nanqingqing for her opinion, and Nanqingqing said, "The secretary, I am not a sisters with Jiao, she is just my cousin, and she has grown up and can make her own decisions. I don't need my consent." She had a very bad expression, even carrying endless sadness. The village chief didn't say anything, but his wife got angry. "You're just a coward, being bullied and not daring to speak up." Nanqingqing's tears fell down and she said, "So what can I do? They are the true love." End of this chapter. Chapter 5. I like Sha Xing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. I like Sha Xing. As soon as Jiao and Qingqing got their certificates back, she went to ask Nanqingqing for money. "Sister, I'm going to have a wedding with brother Qingqing. Can you lend me some money?" Nanqingqing didn't even lift her eyelids, but continued to organize the original owner's belongings. Without organizing, she didn't know that her belongings were pitifully scarce. Poor Nanqingqing threw 2 characters at her, but Jiao didn't believe them. Since tearing her face apart, Jiao has no longer had any concerns and no good looks towards Nanqingqing. At this moment, she was going to flip through Nanqingqing's box, but she was slapped in the face by Nanqingqing. "You dare to hit me!" Jiao covered her face and couldn't believe what she had just experienced. Nanqingqing slapped again and said, "Do you really think I have no temper? For your sake, I gave up staying in the city and came to cut in line with you. Although my health was not good, I still protected you and left all the good things for you, just because you called me sister. Even my fiancé, you wanted to snatch me from you. But you shouldn't, and have no sense of guilt." It's 2 slaps again. Nanqingqing feels particularly refreshed. When I used to watch TV dramas, I didn't understand why many plot arrangements were slapped. It wasn't until I personally started that I realized that some people really didn't slap, but the key was that slapping was particularly enjoyable. Jiao screamed to fight back, but heard Nanqingqing speak coldly, "If you dare to touch me, I will make it impossible for both of you to return to the city in your lifetime." She leaned into Jiao's ear and said, "Guess why you drugged me?" "I'm fine, but why did you get hit?" Nanqingqing took 2 steps back and watched as Jiao's face slowly turned into fear. She pointed at Nanqingqing and said, "Who are you? You're definitely not Nanqingqing." Nanqingqing shrugged and said, "It's impossible to say that the fierce ghost who was killed by you came to claim his life." She even made a shooting gesture at Jiao. Scared, Jiao ran away regardless of asking for money. Nanqingqing cut her throat, and even with such a little courage, did she fight against her. She dug up all the money she had saved and thought of the courtyard in Jiangbei Court. She couldn't help but hum a song, feeling twice as happy. But when she came to Jiangbei Ting's house with a bundle, Jiangbei Ting was not at home, and she felt a bit upset. She heard her neighbors say that her grandmother fainted early this morning, and Jiangbei Ting took someone to the hospital. Nanqingqing hurriedly rushed to the county hospital and arrived at the hospital. As expected, he saw the scene of Jiangbei Court begging the doctor to save his grandmother. The cold and tough man knelt in front of the doctor, hoping that he could save his grandmother's life. Nanqingqing felt very uncomfortable in his heart. There is a mention in the book about the situation of a grandmother, which is that after staying up late and eating good food, it gradually becomes a disease of wealth and prosperity. She didn't go to Jiangbei Court, but went to a state-owned restaurant and spent some money to order a large bowl of egg noodles. The old man's health was too poor to give her too good to eat. Carrying his lunch box back to the hospital, Jiang Baiting's emotions had stabilized. She walked over and handed him the lunch box. "One for Grandma, one for you." Jiang Baiting looked up along the lunch box and couldn't help but feel lost when he saw the gentle eyebrows and eyes of Nanqingqing. In his memory, Nanqingqing had never cared about him so much, indifferent to anything, and spent his days like a puppet. But what is she doing now? Jiangbei Ting opened his lunch box and saw that his lunch box was full of braised pork belly with brown sauce and white rice beside it. The smell of braised pork belly kept getting into his nose, which made him even more confused. "Eat quickly. Only after finishing can you carry your grandmother home. Grandma's body can be taken care of at home, and hospitalization is not necessary. Nanqingqing is very clear. If you ask her why she is so clear, there's nothing she can do. In her previous life, she was a borderless doctor who worked as an international doctor for the Red Cross in a war-torn country for a year. After returning to China, she has also been working in the emergency room. She has seen this kind of disease that has disappeared in the future." Jiangbei Ting didn't say anything thank you, not even a word, just ate all the food in the lunchbox in big gulps. Nanqingqing is very satisfied. She likes obedient men. Jiang Baiting went to wash his lunchbox and came back to see his grandmother wake up, while Nanqingqing was feeding her noodles. His heart, as hard as steel, instantly became extremely sour, with a hint of sourness in his eyes. Grandma complained that Nanqingqing was too wasteful while laughing uncontrollably. She knew that her grandson might have really met a good girl this time. When he returned from the hospital, Nanqingqing also bought a lot of flour and 2 pounds of meat, saying that he was going back to help his grandmother with her health. Jiangbei Court has no intention of stopping, only Grandma keeps saying that Nanqingqing is too wasteful. "Grandma, I'm waiting for you to recover and enjoy the wedding banquet between me and Jiangbei Court." Grandma laughed so hard that teeth and flowers popped out. Okay, Grandma will definitely take good care of her body and wait for you two to give birth to a great-grandson for me." Nanqingqing nodded and said, "That's right. No one can lose out on you. Everyone says that having an old man is like having a treasure in our family, and your old man is our sea-calming needle." She made her grandmother's face ache with a smile. Grandma was mentally limited and soon fell asleep on the back of Jiangbei Court. Jiangbei Court finally spoke to Nanqingqing. "I will marry you." Nanqingqing rolled his eyes. If it weren't for her inability to find a man more in line with her aesthetics, she really wouldn't want to marry a steel-straight man. "I mainly don't know how to say love words." "Okay, when are you planning to marry me?" Nanqingqing held a fake smile and looked inquisitive. Jiangbei Court did not directly say, as Nanqingqing had guessed, now. But rather give her an inexplicable answer. "I need to make an application, and once it's approved, I'll take you to apply for a marriage certificate immediately." "Apply?" Nanqing looked at the Jiangbei Court in shock. She tried hard to search for content about Jiangbei Court in the book. Don't you remember his complex background? Is he a secret worker in some special department? Just as she was brainstorming, the two of them entered the village and met many people in the village. Nanqingqing greeted the other person generously without any embarrassment, while Jiangbei Court had a stern face and ignored anyone, being very cold. Before Nanqingqing could enter the gate of the Jiang family, she was stopped by a female educated youth who was playing well. "What's the situation? Your sister stole your man, you're giving up on yourself and finding a blind person to marry." Nanqingqing. This understanding is quite impressive. The cold gaze of Jiangbei Court frightened the female educated youth. "Still a bad star." Nanqingqing smiled. "Don't be afraid, he just looks fierce, he's actually very easy-going." The female educated youth chuckled. When she said these words, couldn't she just look around at the villagers who were avoiding her? Nanqingqing looked at the back of Jiang Baiting and shouted loudly, "I just like Sha Xing." The Jiangbei Court in front stumbled and almost threw his grandmother to the ground. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Luoliyin Hanzi. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Luoliyin Hanzi. What's going on, Qingqing? The female educated youth held Nanqingqing's arm with a curious expression on her face. Nanqingqing shook his head and said, "What are you referring to?" She was still planning to pursue Jiangbei Court, but had no intention of gossiping with them, but the female educated youth did not let her go. According to the original owner's personality, he must be embarrassed to refuse, but Nanqingqing is not. "You really don't care about what happened between your sister and your fiancé, eh?" Nanqingqing waved his hand and said, "What do you care about? If a man is unmarried and a woman is unmarried, they are all asleep. Do I still want to be the scapegoat?" The female educated youth laughed and said, "If only you said that, then we won't go to their wedding." If it weren't for the fact that the Jiangbei Court in front was about to run out of shadows, she might have said a few more words and just wanted to leave. "Don't go, if you should go, why don't you go if there's something delicious?" Just as she finished speaking, she ran away. The female educated youth still couldn't believe it, but Nanqingqing really chased that guy and ran away. "What do you want to do? Is that what she just shouted true?" She quickly ran to find someone to share this gossip with. Nanqingqing didn't care. She ran to Jiangbeiting's house and saw that he had already gone to the kitchen to cook. When she saw Nanqingqing come in, she didn't say anything. "Sister Qingqing, the village branch secretary has asked you to go to the village branch. Someone is looking for you." A child ran up to Nanqingqing and passed a message. Nanqingqing responded and took out a few candies from his pocket and stuffed them into the little boy's hand. Running errands. The child was so happy that he grabbed the candy and ran away. Jiang Baiting did not agree with her approach. "If you give him candy like this, he will ask you again and again in the future." Nanqingqing shrugged and said, "I have money." She is indeed wealthy, but she used to spend all her money on Nanjiaojiao. Opening a candy and stuffing it into Jiangbei Ting's mouth, he turned his back and asked, "Is it delicious?" Jiangbei Ting didn't like candy, but he didn't refuse it. He couldn't help but look at Nanqingqing, wanting to see something on her face, but there was nothing. "It's different. It's completely different from my previous life." Still not leaving. The Jiangbei Court expelled people. However, Nanqingqing was not at all angry. He even took advantage of the frowning of the Jiangbei Court and leaned over to touch his cheek, teasing and saying, "Sister will come again." After speaking, she ran away. Jiangbei Court. He is very certain that Nanqingqing was just teasing him. It's like ruining one's values, a girl's family. Anyway, he had never seen such a Nanqingqing in his previous life. "Debei, that's a good child. Marrying him is your blessing." Grandma watched as Jiangbei Ting carried a bowl of noodles and lumps into the house, earnestly persuading. Jiangbei Ting nodded. Since he has decided to marry Nanqingqing, he will not break his promise. But he probably never expected that as soon as Nanqingqing arrived at the village branch, someone would hug him. If it weren't for not feeling any bad breath, Nanqingqing would have taken action. Qingqing, it's my brother who's useless. The person holding Nanqingqing's voice choked up, and it sounded very self-blaming. Brother. Nanqingqing pushed and whispered, brother. In the original owner's memory, there was an older brother who left home when she was very young. Otherwise, she would not have relied on her mother. If it weren't for the care of the uncle's family, she wouldn't have cut in line with Nan Jiaojiao for the sake of kindness. South Bosch wants to cry. Squeezing her lips and trying to control it, she still hugged Nanqingqing in shock and cried loudly. Several village officials in the village branch looked bewildered, probably not having seen a big man cry into a dog. Nanqingqing had an unattainable expression on her face, but she couldn't get rid of her and could only let Nan Boshi cry. Fortunately, South Bosch still knew that his behavior was somewhat embarrassing. After crying for a while, he stopped his voice, but still choked up. Brother is wrong. I thought agreeing to those people's demands would allow you to live a good life with our mother. Nan Boshi's words aroused Nanqingqing's curiosity. In the original owner's memory, he knew there was a very powerful brother, but he didn't know in what aspect he was powerful. After seeing the real person, she still felt somewhat helpless in accepting it. Who could bear to see a man with a particularly strong and upright appearance, but cry like Lin Daiyu? And his voice, really good lowly. It's the kind of thing where a man can be so excited that he can't fall asleep just by listening to the sound, just by looking at her appearance. Women can laugh like flower lovers. But these two completely incompatible things fall on one person. Can you imagine that scene? A man who is 1.89 meters tall, even if he speaks a mouthful of lowly, he still cries. Nanqingqing suddenly became curious about the original owner's parents. What kind of parents can give birth to such strange things? She hasn't said anything yet. Nan Boshi has already talked a lot. He is still a broken mouth. The village branch secretary and everyone still had a complex expression, probably unable to accept this combination. They were either smoking dry cigarettes or drinking water vigorously. Anyway, they are trying their best to endure not laughing. Nanqingqing also gave up his face and waited for Nan Boshi to talk more before asking him, "Why did you come to find me?" Nan Boshi was about to cry again when Nanqingqing shouted, "Stop, don't cry." Nan Boshi choked twice and said, "Sister, you're bad." Nanqing rubbed her arms. She can't stand it anymore. It's not just a telegram sent back by Nan Jiaojiao, saying she wants to marry that little coward who Qingqing. I remember that little coward was your fiancé AE, and I don't need to ask, you must have been wronged. I'm coming. South Boshi was excited and her voice became even louder, with a voice that was explosive. South Boshi's beard was also a bit explosive. Nanqingqing covered her eyes. If it weren't for blocking her ears and not hearing, she would probably be able to block her ears as well. It's simply level 10 devastation. Brother, why did you come back? Nanqingqing believed that her brother would never appear for no reason. There must be a reason. After being asked, Nan Boshi clenched her fist for a long time before Luoliyin replied, "That's really not my fault. Nanqingqing has a bad premonition. Those old men were all hospitalized, so I ran away." Nanqingqing. What is it? What old man? She didn't ask if it was okay, but when she asked, Nan Boshi was filled with grievances. From his complaints, Nanqingqing summarized the following. South Bosch is a top mathematical genius who was specially recruited into a research team. The old professors really like him, but he likes to assign various tasks. South Bosch only agreed to go there for the sake of a better life for his family, but every time his letters were checked, he would concoct something on his own to avoid interception and call his mother directly. Then I happened to learn about Nanqingqing's fiancée A and Nan Jiaojiao's marriage. He made some small inventions and electrocuted several old professors. Sister, I have a sense of propriety. They can only lie down like mud for 10 days at most. Nanqingqing. If you can't imagine your brother's image, let's refer to voice actor Murong Lei, but with a height setting of 189, a tough guy with a beard, only knowing the sound of a loli, at most a powerful loli sound when serious. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Brothers Killing Power. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 7. Brothers Killing Power. Nan Boshi's words left Nanqingqing speechless. She never expected to hear such content one day. You really dare to do anything? Her voice was filled with helplessness, and one could imagine the emotions of those old folks now. Nan Boshi doesn't care. If he keeps thinking about what those old men think, will he still live? What about that guy? Why hasn't he come yet? As an older brother, Nan Boshi naturally wouldn't neglect to take good care of someone. The village chief poked his head outside and didn't see anyone. I'll go out and take a look. He is afraid that if he stays here, he will not be able to maintain his image, so it's better to go out. The others also followed and ran out, which was convenient for South Bosch. What's going on? Who gave them the courage? Although Nan Boshi may seem out of place, he has never been easy to fool. Nanqingqing didn't want to say it, but it was clear that if she didn't explain it clearly this time, there would only be one outcome, especially since she was afraid of Nan Boshi's Luoliyin. This is just one thing, I almost lost it. Nanqingqing said briefly, trying not to add insult to injury. Obviously, Nan Boshi, who doubted life, looked at her like an idiot. I thought you were so smart, but now I realize that you have a brain pit. Isn't it a happy thing to get rid of this kind of thing? Nanqingqing laughed dryly. Nan Boshi pointed at Nanqingqing's forehead and almost brought a shrew to perform on sight. Fortunately, the village chief brought Qingqing and Nan Jiaojiao over. Compared to Nanqingqing's calmness, Nan Jiaojiao was truly afraid, especially when she saw Nan Boshi's face. Her legs and stomach were spinning. The question is, the psychological shadow from a young age is too great, it's like taking her life. If it weren't for South Bosch's efforts to reduce the burden on her family and work, it's estimated that her tragic life would continue. Brother. Nan Jiaojiao was very well behaved, but Nan Boshi gave her a cold and reckless look, and then walked up to Qingqing. It was really impolite, and she kicked her over with one kick. There was no strength, but there was also 99%. Qingqing lay on the ground, afraid to make any complaints, and even swallowed his painful moans after seeing clearly who was moving his feet. Brother, what are you doing? Nan Jiaojiao controlled her fear and tried to awaken Nan Boshi's rationality, but unfortunately she forgot something. Do you feel heartbroken? Nanqingqing pinched Nan Jiaojiao's shoulder with a caring expression on her face. Nan Jiaojiao couldn't shake off Nanqingqing's hand, she could only turn around and stare at people. Don't do this, brother is also for your good. Nanqingqing looked at Nan Jiaojiao's disbelief and then said, think about it. If it weren't for your sake, would my brother come over? After all, who can't beat Qingqing? If my brother were to beat him, the meaning would be completely different. After she finished speaking, she looked left and right and lowered her voice. After all, you're just a little sister. Law getting involved with your future brother. Law, tsk. Although the following words were not spoken, those few tone words fully illustrate everything. Nan Jiaojiao's face turned red and she said, I've already told you that I have an engagement with brother Qingqing. It's your mistake. Even the head of the women's department couldn't bear to hear this. Her loud voice was well known in all corners of the country, and she really saved the need for a loudspeaker. She let out a whoosh, and everyone's attention was drawn away by her. I saw her clapping her hands and making a sudden realization. You and Qingqing are engaged to each other. So, you call them brother.in.law and brother.in.law all day. What's that all about? Or is that just a good one? Someone couldn't help but laugh. Nanqingqing also nodded and said, "No, I only found out today that you like this kind of thing. It was my sister who misunderstood you." After she finished speaking, she covered her face and wanted to cry twice, but unfortunately, she couldn't cry. Fortunately, South Bosch didn't need her to consider this issue. Qingqing was only 1.7 meters tall and was directly thrown into a centrifugal ball by South Bosch. The scream finally erupted. Qingqing begged for mercy regardless of his face, but Nan Boshi also knew that if he spoke up, he would destroy the atmosphere that had been finally created. He would just keep silent and use all his strength to deal with people. By the time he let go and dropped the person to the ground, both of Qingqing's eyes had already begun to move independently. Waste. Disobedient Nan Boshi looks down on him. He's just such a useless person. If it weren't for his engagement, he would definitely not agree to be his brother. Law. You're good. Nan Boshi smiled and patted Nan Jiaojiao's shoulder. Nan Jiaojiao has never been praised like this before, she feels a bit dazed and unreal. She knows how much South Bosch looks down on her. Thank you, brother. Compared to paying attention to Qingqing, she seems to care more about this cousin's praise. Only Nanqingqing looked at Nan Boshi with a gaze that you had enough of, isn't that misleading? As expected, the female director didn't understand either. The aunt rubbed against Nanqingqing's side and touched her arm, saying, "Is that your own brother?" Nanqingqing nodded. Although she doesn't really want to admit it, blood ties are not so easy to throw away. Despite being happy, Nan Jiaojiao finally realized something was wrong. Why does my brother praise me? Nan Boshi kicked Qingqing, who was lying on the ground, and began to vomit wildly. I have helped to recycle such a waste, it has been a great help to our family officials. His lowly voice is really sweet, and at this moment, due to happiness, there is a slight upward tone, and the spicy ear level rises sharply. The first person who couldn't resist was the female director. She was not the kind of person with strong endurance, so she immediately laughed and patted her thighs, unable to stop. Immediately, one voice after another kept coming out. Nan Jiaojiao's face slowly turned pale. Looking at the disheveled Qingqing again, she also doubted whether she had done it right. But when she thought of Qingqing's family, she became firm in her thoughts. Being able to return to the city and have good jobs is not something that can be compared in the countryside. She must seize this opportunity. Besides, the Hu family has already leaked information to Qingqing, saying that they are already figuring out a solution. "Brother, I'm also your sister." Nan Jiaojiao shouted, in exchange for a white eye from Nan Boshi. "Don't say that, uncle, I don't care about you. Besides, I only have one biological sister in Nan Boshi. A younger sister almost angered him, he doesn't have a tendency to be abused." Nan Jiaojiao can only look at Nanqingqing. "Don't look at me, you still don't know my brother's personality." Nanqingqing glanced at Qingqing and said, "You better care about your man. Since my brother has come, he must have watched you get married. My mother and family have all come, can we not take it seriously?" Canon Bosch dismantled her platform and said, "Don't talk nonsense, who said I'm here to observe the ceremony?" Nan Boshi kicked Qingqing again and said, "I'm afraid I've seen too much of such a useless person and had nightmares." "Who are you talking about?" Someone rushed toward South Bosch. "I have been on the road all along, and high-speed rail is really not suitable for coding. There are too many people during the holiday, so I will update steadily next month. I can only guarantee continuous updates in these days." End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Bear-Sized Pokeback Moth. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Bear-Sized Pokeback Moth. If it weren't for South Bosch evading in time, they would probably have been beaten. Auntie. Nanqingqing searched through her memories and finally dug out who this person was from the depths of her memory. Meanwhile, Nan Jiaojiao also ran over and hugged the person, "Mom. Nanqingqing doesn't need to verify now, and he knows he didn't admit the wrong person. Auntie first looked at Nan Xiaojiao and confirmed that there were no issues with her before looking at Nan Bashi. It seems like you have developed your skills. Learn from that damn dad style. If it weren't for the obvious mockery, there would still be him to praise. Nanqing stepped forward and grabbed the brother who was about to speak, then walked up to the little ant with a smile on his face. Auntie still misses my dad, does uncle know? The little ant glared angrily at Nanqingqing, who pretended not to see it but just kept smiling. Can you say that Auntie has a crush on our dad? That's really amazing. As soon as Nanbo spoke, everyone knelt down. This lowly sound really leads to cognitive confusion. Auntie didn't want to deal with them anymore, but instead focused her attention on her daughter. What are you really thinking? Are you really going to marry Qingqing? Nan Xiaojiao is pulling people out, and she knows this is not the place to talk. Unfortunately, Nan Bashi came over for this reason, so it's not easy for people to leave. Auntie, your precious son.in.law is still here. Qingqing, who was mentioned by Nan Bashi as trying to escape, had a look of mockery in his eyes. Auntie gritted her teeth and had to stand still. What exactly do you want to do? Auntie glared angrily, and Nan Bashi laughed a silver bell and said, look at what Auntie said. They just wanted to discuss with Auntie. How can we all say that we are a family? You forgot something. As a junior, can I still remind you? Damn Luoliyin. If it weren't for this unfamiliar place, Auntie would have started hitting people. Nanqingqing also followed Nan Bashi's words and said, Auntie, my brother is also kind-hearted. Can't you not understand? Her gaze swept over Qingqing. And this man, who is a delicate sister who has put in a lot of effort to sleep, would rather ruin my reputation as a sister than take it lightly, Auntie. Those who have seen yin and yang people are as rare as Nanqingqing. As expected, after she finished speaking, the little ant's face completely changed, and Nan Xiaojiao's tears fell. Qingqing is not a shameless person either. He was caught in the act before and couldn't resist it. At this time, he is still being ridiculed, which is unbearable. Nanqing, you're done. What kind of thing are you? After he finished shouting, he regretted it. After all, his little life was still in the hands of South Bosch. South Bosch did not disappoint him either, asking him to avoid doing a 360-degree spin and then lifting the person upside down with his legs up. Shame, anger, and desire to die are probably the best portrayal of Qingqing at this time. Auntie pointed at Nan Bashi and said, enough. Nan Bashi cut and threw the person in front of the little ant. Watch your things and let me hear him say something bad to my sister again. I'll kill him. Previously, due to the hasty departure, there was no means left to protect Nanqingqing, which led to Qingqing and Nan Xiaojiao coercing Nanqingqing to cut in line together. Qingqing really doesn't like Nanqingqing, which is even more hateful. His gaze towards Nan Bashi is also full of unkindness. Oh, looking at your eyes, you're planning to have a love-hate relationship with me, right? Then, brother, I'll have a good argument with you. Nanbo said he's going to take action again. Qingqing ran away, farting and urinating. Nan Xiaojiao and Auntie both felt embarrassed and never expected such a scene to occur. It's simply embarrassing to the extreme. They also followed along in a gloomy manner. The village chief and several village officials all looked at Nan Bashi. Nan Bashi also knew that his sister still had to live in the village and it was not easy to offend others. Instead, he stuffed a special pack of cigarettes into it. Although they are usually people who smoke dry cigarettes, they truly know this special supply of cigarettes. As for men, research on tobacco and alcohol is no less than children's obsession with cards. Everyone wished they could stick that cigarette to their noses and smell it, and it took them a while to remember the person from South Bosch. It's a bit awkward. Qingqing doesn't know how to handle this matter today. The village branch secretary spoke first, and other village cadres naturally agreed one after another. Nanqingqing couldn't bear to watch and poked at Nanbashi. I'll have to trouble a few more people in the future. It's getting late, I'll have a few words with Qingqing, and I'm also leaving. South Bosch deliberately lowered its voice, although still leaning towards women, it ultimately did not have the contrast of Lolita's voice. The siblings walked on the path of Taohua village, and Nanbashi looked at Nanqingqing with a strange gaze. You're not a Qingqing. Nanqingqing almost choked and was about to admit when she saw Nanboshi excitedly shouting, "You are my brother's little ancestor." Nanqingqing. Bai is excited. Qingqing, let me tell you, your mind has finally stopped beating this time. At first glance, Hu Chunsheng doesn't seem like a good bird. Being able to be seduced by Nan Jiaojiao happens to be a good opportunity for you to be dumped. Brother has already found many decent men for you, and you can choose from them. He even took out many photos and handed them to Nanqingqing, saying, take a look, as long as you have something you like, my brother will tie it up for you. Nanqingqing. I really can't expect too much. This guy is different from a normal person. Brother, I have a man I'm interested in. You just need to help me handle it. She thought of Jiangbei Court. If she could handle such a person, it would not only reassure the original owner, but also ease her careful thinking. Compared to the way they had just worked hard to promote, when they heard that their sister had a suitable partner, South Bosch immediately changed his face. What man can make you so anxious to get it? I'm telling you, there are too many men in this world who are inconsistent in appearance and appearance. You're too naive. Even Hu Chunsheng has been fooling you for so many years. Who knows what you're after? Nanbashi was still talking endlessly, but was interrupted by the appearance of someone. Just as his chattering mouth stopped, his face twisted and he screamed as he flew towards the person. Nanqingqing's mouth twitched. After all, when Nanbashi rushed over just now, he was like a moth with sharp edges, like a big bear, rushing towards the man across from him. I'm afraid he might accidentally turn someone into a ball and fly out of the sky. Fortunately, South Bosch still has a sense of propriety, so it doesn't really knock people away, but rather gets kicked up by them. How could you treat others like this? They are so excited when they see you. Nanbashi had to get closer, but unfortunately he was able to easily swing Hu Chunsheng, but he became a weak chicken in front of this person. Shut up, I don't know such a demon like you. Starting tomorrow, 2 chapters will be updated. On May Day, I worked in my hometown and lost my muscles for several years. Now, my lactate levels are too high and I feel so sore that I can't handle it. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Auntie's Calculation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Auntie's Calculation. I disagree with this marriage. The returning aunt interrupted their warmth. Do you need your consent? Who my sister wants to marry is her own freedom. Although Nanbashi didn't really want Nanqingqing to marry Jiangbei Court, he still leaned towards his sister rather than being interfered with. Tinggu, how could you do this? Nanhua sure looked aggrieved. If it weren't for his height limiting his performance, he would probably be able to twist his body and hug his legs and cry. Nanqingqing couldn't bear to watch anymore. She looked at Jiangbei Court with a complicated expression on her face. The expression on Jiang Biting's face did not improve much either. He lifted the collar of the South Bosch and pushed the person away a bit before clapping his hands in disgust. Why are you here? Jiangbei Ting spoke up, and Nanbashi came back to life and rubbed against it again. My sister is here, come and take a look at her. Nanbashi pointed at Nanqingqing. Jiangbei Court looked at Nanqing, who showed an expression that made him unable to laugh or cry. Nanqingqing pointed to Jiangbei Ting and reminded Nanboshi, in the future, calling her brother in law and calling her brother is not feasible. Nanbashi's gaze scanned back and forth between Jiangbei Court and Nanqingqing, and in the end, he was so shocked that he couldn't even close his mouth. When did you two get together? He may have been so shocked that he circled around the Jiangbei court twice, disregarding the increasingly dangerous aura of the court, and was almost lying on top of it. Seeing that Jiangbei court was about to take action, Nanbashi took a step back. When did it happen? It's not like it's not over with that bastard Qingqing yet, is it? Nanbashi grabbed Nanqingqing's shoulder and said, "Sister, listen to my brother. Don't tease Ting, be careful, Ting will twist your neck." Nanqingqing felt a headache and couldn't bear to listen. Jiang Biting pinched the back of Nanbashi's neck and looked disgusted. "You shut up for me. South Bosch. I knew Ting would definitely take care of him." Nanqingqing's ears finally quieted for a while, as her fingers moved back and forth between Jiangbeiting and Nanboshi. "What's going on?" Nanbashi coughed lightly and said, "Ting Gu, my favorite man. Nanqingqing. It's a bit spicy." Jiangbei Ting kicked over and said, "Shut up." Nanbashi snorted twice, not daring to refute, as he could see that the Jiangbei court was unable to stir up any waves in front of him. "Does your sister still need to go to the countryside?" Nanbashi spoke directly to the point. But in this matter, it's really not the fault of Nanbashi. In fact, Nanbashi simply betrayed Nanqingqing. It's her brain twitching. Sure enough, in front of idols, younger sisters are all used to betray. Nanqingqing grinned his teeth and could only fake a smile. She gave up staying in the city for the sake of that dead girl, Nan Jiaojiao, and insisted on protecting her from going to the countryside to cut in line. When I found out about this, she had already arrived. South Bosch was also very depressed, even getting a little angry, and Luoliyin transformed into a screaming chicken. Nanqingqing covered her ears with a look of disgust. The original owner is indeed sick. She doesn't deny it either. Does it mean she likes to be pointed at by the nose for evaluation? My mind has been flooded, and I've been emptied by Brother Ting lately. Nanqingqing took Jiang Biting's arm. A face full of happiness. Jiang Biting placed his hand on her head, and goosebumps appeared on her body. "Speak well, don't imitate your brother. Innocent South Bosch. What is it about him? He is standing well." Nanqingqing also realized that no matter how artificial her voice was, it couldn't compare to Nanbashi's Luoliyin. She decisively listened to the advice and restored her normal voice. "Jiangbei court, to be serious, my brother is here, don't you have anything to say?" Just now, she heard Nanbashi say he likes Jiangbei court. Jiangbei court obviously remembered this sentence and his face turned black. "I don't like men." Compared to the directness of the southern Qing, the Jiangbei court is more direct. He is particularly curious about Nanqingqing in this lifetime. She always makes people have a desire to explore. "Do you like me?" Nanqingqing looked eagerly at Jiangbei court. Before Jiangbei court could speak, the village chief leaned in. "What's the situation?" "De Bei, are you going to marry Nanqingqing?" Before Jiangbei court could answer, Nanqingqing took the lead and said, "Uncle, do you think it's appropriate for me to join forces with Debi?" The village chief really had to take a good look at the two of them before finally pinching his chin and saying, "Not to mention, the two of you stand together perfectly, one black and the other white." No matter how well Nanqingqing held his breath, it instantly turned into nothing and he laughed like a fool. Jiangbei court is not black, it is because of the ancient bronze color formed by long-term exposure to the sun, but in the eyes of these people, it becomes black. The key is that she is also a cold-skinned woman, standing in front of the Jiangbei court, with a tragic contrast. Fortunately, the Jiangbei court does not care about appearance evaluation. "I disagree." The returning aunt interrupted their warmth. "Do you need your consent? Who does my sister want to marry? It's her own freedom." Although Nanbashi didn't really want Nanqingqing to marry Jiangbei court, he still leaned towards his sister rather than being interfered with. Auntie had to be honest. Qingqing really can't get married. She still has an engagement with the Hu family. Isn't Qingqing already sleeping with your daughter? Nan Boshi didn't give her a face at all. Who is disgusting? Auntie K said, what does it have to do with Qingqing? What I'm talking about is having a marriage contract with the Hu family. Back then, your grandfather made a marriage contract between two families, and he named Qingqing as having to marry into the Hu family. You assume Qingqing, but Qingqing also has an older brother named Yaozong. Now even Nanqingqing began to be curious. Hu Yaozong has already married and had children. Auntie, if your brain is broken, I'll help you take a look. South Boshi took the lead in challenging, but my aunt didn't panic at all and explained calmly. This matter is no longer a problem. Hu Yaozong has already divorced, and now it's just the right time to marry Qingqing. Moreover, when calculated, Qingqing is not at a disadvantage. In the past, she used to be a mother. She is so weak, and having a child is also difficult. Everything is covered. If it weren't for the parties involved, Nanqingqing would have felt proud of such an aunt. Unfortunately, she is the least capable of being a stepmother, and she wouldn't have thought about fighting against these people so early. Since Auntie is so kind, how could I not listen to Auntie's arrangements? Nanqingqing spoke up and made my aunt happy enough to fly. The whole person was excited to the point of losing their composure. She grabbed Nanqingqing's hand and said, Auntie did not misread Qingqing. Qingqing is a good child. This time, it was Auntie who made things difficult for you. Nanqingqing smiled as she watched her aunt express her joy alone. Her gaze stopped Nan Boshi's impending outburst and then turned to Jiang Biting. Compared to the impatient Nan Boshi, the Jiangbei court is more calm. His eyes were full of exploration. Auntie, since I want to fulfill my engagement, should I also fulfill my delicate engagement? Nanqingqing lifted her lips lightly and looked prepared for you. Auntie shook off Nanqingqing's hand and said, what do you mean? She even took a step back, distancing herself from Nanqingqing. And Nanqingqing not only wasn't angry, but also happily reminded, it's her engagement partner who has come. Still working hard on coding, just send it out after finishing. Do you have any fairy reading books? Leave a message for me to see you. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Don't beat Laozi. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Don't beat Laozi. Nanqingqing pointed at the back of the little ant and spoke calmly, Auntie, it depends on your combat effectiveness next. She took a step back and made enough space for these people to expand, while also pulling the Jiangbei court. Just watch the play, don't get so close. Nanqing stepped on his feet to reach the ears of Jiangbei court. Jiang Biting pressed a finger against her forehead and said, speak well, don't get so close. Nanqingqing. Hee, I don't want to suffer losses. But she likes it. Nanqingqing was very happy in her heart, but she took a step back with grievances on her face and said, I'll listen to my brother. Next to him, Nan Boshi held on to Nanqingqing's shoulder and said, don't follow me, I've used this set before, it's not easy to use. Nanqingqing. I almost forgot, there is also such a Luoliyin elder brother. Jiangbei Ting shook his head, feeling speechless from afar. What are these two doing? Do you know how exaggerated their current appearance is? Fortunately, Auntie's attention was caught and she didn't have time to observe them, otherwise she wouldn't know what to say. Who asked you to come? Auntie's face turned pale as she pushed the person out. Unfortunately, her strength is not comparable to that of a man who works hard all day. Auntie, I heard that Jiao is getting married, I'm just here to see. He looked left and right and saw that it fell on Nanqingqing in an instant without any pause. On the contrary, it stayed for a long time when he saw Jiang Biting and Nan Boshi. The village has not been so lively for many years, and people have gathered around one by one, trying to stretch their ears and listen hard. Nan Jiao also pulled Hu Qingqing over, and when she saw the man who appeared, her face looked very ugly. I don't need you to look, hurry up and get lost. The person did not leave, but looked at Qingqing. I didn't say a word and just called over. I wish I could kill someone. Nanqingqing poked Nanboshi. Did you think of it? South Bosch shook his head, not expecting this scene. Even the little ants and the others had a bewildered expression on their faces, and no one expected them to take action at a word of disagreement. It's simply subverting the three views. What's your problem? Qingqing has been beaten these past 2 days, and his mood has been extremely bad. Even for the sake of Nan Jiaojiao, he doesn't want to endure it. Counterattack is the beginning of the battle. The two fought fiercely. If it weren't for the militia coming over, we might have been able to fight for a while. It took about the same amount of effort to sit down and speak properly. Tell me, who is this dog man? That person glared angrily at Nan Jiaojiao. Nan Jiaojiao looked down on such a rough guy and particularly liked to take action. What does it have to do with you to manage it? Nan Jiaojiao has become accustomed to being unruly. Usually, her family dotes on her. At this moment, when she sees her beloved man being beaten, her mood can be imagined. You are my unmarried daughter. Law. What do you mean by your relationship? While spending the money I gave you, you are fooling around with a dog man. What do you call me? The Lao Lao is the Lao Lao, and this person also dotes on Nan Jiaojiao quite a bit. Unfortunately, I didn't know what Nan Jiaojiao was doing before, but this time I was exposed by Nanqingqing. She thought of the phone call she made at the village branch, and it seemed that the original owner was not too foolish. Seeing the foreign aid found, it looks like a tough nut no matter what. Qingqing couldn't bear the gaze of those people and left a few harsh words in embarrassment and anger before running away. Nan Jiaojiao wanted to chase after her, but was stopped by a rough man. Having a fierce aura, it doesn't feel worse than what the Jianbei court had before. Even more terrifying. Even if the engagement is cancelled, remember to repay the money. Nan Jiaojiao doesn't have any money. She usually spends money on her by Nanqingqing, or it's men who don't have any money at all. But if you want to marry Qingqing, you can only consider yourself unlucky. The key is that she must go and coax Qingqing now. She doesn't have time to deal with a rough guy. So we can only agree to this request. Nan Jiaojiao turned to her mother for help, knowing that a decision must be made at this moment, otherwise her daughter's lifelong happiness may be in question. Can only ask one question. How much is it really? 5,000 yuan, said the rough and straightforward person. The ant's face immediately drooped. How much do you say? The old man repeated without blushing or jumping. Many people are also whispering. 5,000 yuan. What is that concept? Nonsense. Where did you get the money from, you muddy leg? Don't worry where I got the money. Anyway, Nan Jiaojiao asked me for so much money. If you don't believe me, I'll go get the IOU, and that's not just that number, said the old man, feeling unhappy now. The aunt saw many problems in her daughter's eyes, probably only a little more. It's impossible to take out 5,000 yuan at once. She doesn't have that much. At this moment, she turned her gaze to South Bosch. When I was originally enjoying eating melons, I suddenly saw the gaze projected by my aunt, and my mood immediately became bad. His eyes were gloomy. Bosch, you should be rich, right? Auntie saw that Nan Boshi had no intention of taking the initiative and could only speak up. South Bosch immediately jumped to the side. Don't hit me. He even tugged at Nanqingqing and said, Sister, listen to your brother's advice. Those with bad intentions won't last long. Don't do that kind of thing. The black line at the end of Nanqingqing's head. She could only look at her aunt silently. The aunt, who was just about to speak, naturally couldn't speak. If you want to withdraw from the marriage, you must take the money. At this critical moment, the old man is not prepared to let them go. I can say it. If you can't give me the money today, then this engagement will continue. Auntie was anxious, and Nan Jiaojiao was even more anxious. She was holding on to Qingqing at this moment and didn't know how to coax him, but she really managed to coax him. When Aunt was about to go crazy, Qingqing surprisingly returned with Nanqingqing. He stood up to the old man and said, "I'll give you 5,000 yuan, but it's not right now. I don't have that much money either. I need to go to the bank to withdraw money." The bold man immediately said, "What's up here? I have time, let's go directly to the bank to withdraw money." Qingqing looked at the old man as if he couldn't get the money, and coupled with his concerns, this matter must not be resolved so easily. Gritting his teeth, he led the person away. As he was about to leave, Qingqing glanced at Nanqingqing with a fierce expression that was hard to ignore. Nanboshi's sister immediately raised her hand and cursed back, "Damn it, what are you looking at? I'll dig out your eyeballs for you." Qingqing is afraid of Nanboshi, but he will also have times to leave. What he truly fears is the Jiangbei court. He didn't express anything, but standing next to Nanqingqing, that's all it means. "Ting-gu, don't hold me, I'll go kill that damn thing." Nanboshi grabbed Jiang Baiting's arm and shouted at Qingqing. Jiangbei Ting flew over with a knife, and Nanboshi instantly fell silent. The holiday is so busy that it takes off. After the holiday, be sure to update it well. End of this chapter.